Hello, and welcome back to my Star Wars documentary. The last time I covered my love of Star Wars, the lack of disrespect by my twin sister towards my Star Wars toys. Yes, I have a twin sister. And the excitement at the release of the greatest film and definitely the greatest sequel of all time, The Empire Strikes Back. I also promised to tell you about my thoughts on the special editions, my thoughts on the prequels, how Return of the Jedi was spoilt by me by my best friend's mother, and how Star Wars ultimately turned me into a thief.
What's your hurry, thief?
All which will be covered in this part and the next part. I was going to tell you all about the new range of toys that come out with The Empire Strikes Back next, but I'm guessing that you really all want to know about why Star Wars turned me into a thief, so I will tell you the story. Please appreciate, I'm quite ashamed of this story. I was young, I was nasty, I was a bit of a horrible kid at times. There was a kid who lived across the road from me called Kevin. We used to call him Kevin the Gerbil. For those UK viewers who are listening, because I'm guessing I've gone international by now, Kevin the Gerbil was the sidekick of a bloke called Roland Rat, or a character called Roland Rat. So his nickname was Kevin the Gerbil. What I used to do was play Star Wars with him quite often, and every now and again the game we would play would be where some of the characters or the action figures got buried in the earth in his front garden. Oh dear, I would bury some of his figures in such an area that he would never be able to find them, and as soon as his parents went out and I see that he'd gone out with his parents, I would dash across the road, unearth them and stick them in my own collection. I know, it's very wrong, and Kevin, if you are listening, I'm very, very, very sorry, and I'm very, very sorry for calling you Kevin the Gerbil for all those years. Anyway, enough of my indiscretions as a child. The new toys came out for The Empire Strikes Back, and they included lots of new figures, far too many to mention, but they also included many more vehicles, such as the Millennium Falcon, the all-terrain armoured transport, a Tauntaun with belly rescue feature. How many kids bought the original Tauntaun and then had to plead their parents to buy them the second Tauntaun that had the belly rescue feature? We got the Snow Speeder, we got the X-Wing with battle damage. We got Slave One, not the coolest of ships, but it was the coolest of blokes flying it. We got the Twin Pod Cloud Car, which was pretty shit. Plus you had to buy 2 figures to put in it. We had the Radar Laser Cannon, which was canon, if you pardon the pun. I say canon because Kenner and Palitoy come up with their own ideas. They had MLC3, which was the mobile laser cannon. They had MTV7. Fuck knows what that stood for. And they had Cap2, which I assume had something to do with captivity. On top of this, they had playsets. They had the Dagobah playset. They had a Hoth playset called Imperial Attack Base. They had a Star Destroyer playset, which looked nothing like a Star Destroyer and quite frankly looked pretty shit to me. They had a Cloud City playset. I don't ever remember seeing this in the shops. None of my friends had these. They had a Turret and Probot. Probot? This is not a Probot.
An Imperial probe droid.
Yes, an Imperial probe droid. Thank you, Your Highness. But what did I choose to buy out of this vast range of toys? What was the thing that I really, really wanted? You had the Falcon, you had the AT-AT, you had it all. For some reason, at 9 years old, I decided that the thing I wanted for my 9th birthday was the Rebel Transport. Quite possibly the most boring of all these ships and playsets that you could find. Don't know why I wanted it. Maybe I thought I could store all my figures in it and keep them neat and tidy. I really, really don't know. I also had an Int 4 which fitted inside an AT-AT. Problem is, I didn't have a bloody AT-AT. Maybe Kevin the Gerbil's got one. I could go over there and bury it in the garden. I did also have the Radar Laser Cannon, which was kind of cool. And for some reason, I also bought the Vehicle Maintenance Energizer, which served no purpose at all. Anyway, like all things Star Wars related in the late 70s and the early 80s, the toys were cool. The film was cool, the Ice Planet Hoth was especially cool. And thankfully, this film didn't jump any sharks. The Empire Strikes Back had groundbreaking special effects which were second to none. It also added to the Star Wars mythos, introducing new characters which we would grow to love just as much as the characters from the original film that we already loved. Or fucking hated in some circumstances.
You watch your language.
I'll get fucked. So let's fast forward to 1983 and the release of Revenge of the Jedi. Blue Harvest. I mean Return of the Jedi. Now remember how I told you this film got spoilt for me by my best friend's mother? Dave was my oldest and still is my oldest friend, and we're still in very close contact. He's the one on the right, the not so good looking one. Anyway, I went round his house one day after he'd seen the film, and his mother expressed to me how sad it was when Yoda died. Did you see just how upset Luke Skywalker was? Well, that's exactly how I looked at 10 years old when I was told that Yoda had died without even seeing the bloody film. To be fair, he didn't actually die. He became one with the Force, like many other Jedi before him. Sorry, that ain't fucking right. To be fair, he didn't actually die. He became one with the Force, like many other Jedi before him. And judging by his behaviour the next time we see him, I think he'd just been to the pictures during the Jedi Afterlife to see Thor Ragnarok, and he fancied himself as the next God of Thunder. So, just like with the other two films, with the release of the Return of the Jedi came new toys, including the AT-ST, one of the coolest things about Star Wars. The speeder bike, what an amazing little toy this was. You had the Jabba the Hutt playset. Although this one looks a bit strange, I'm not sure why Luke is chained to Jabba the Hutt. That was normally the job of Princess Leia. Please note that I do not mean any disrespect to the late great Carrie Fisher, but she always looked amazing in her slave girl outfit.
What are you doing?
I'm making my Star Wars documentary.
No, you're not. You're looking at pictures of Princess Leia in a bikini.
No, I'm not.
The poor woman sadly passed away. You should have more respect.
Sorry about that. Sometimes, as a bloke, you just can't win. Now, Return of the Jedi always comes under scrutiny as being the worst of the original trilogy. I understand this. It's the weaker of the three films. Some of the bad comments about Return of the Jedi are warranted, but it's not half as bad as some people make out. I guess the biggest problem is the Ewoks, and I fully understand. Most fans know that Lucas wanted this to be a planet full of Wookiees, but felt that Chewbacca had already demonstrated that he was quite technologically advanced, and that using Wookiees would not make sense. So he chose the cuddly Ewoks instead, which probably made sense from a merchandising point of view. Merchandising should never have been a factor. They were a factor in the original two films, but they were a byproduct of how good the films were. This did seem a little bit like greed on George Lucas's behalf. Another complaint is the lack of ideas. First we had a desert planet, then we had an ice planet, and then we had a forest planet. Oh, bloody hell, that's what a forest looks like. I've never seen a forest before. Fuck me, looks amazing. Han Solo is not quite the same character in this film. Is it part of the carbon freezing process? Did he lose a little bit of his spunk being frozen for so long? I'm not quite too sure. I think the truth of it is that Harrison Ford didn't really give a monkeys about the film anymore. Everybody knows he wanted to be killed off. Lucas said no, so I think Harrison thought, fuck you, George, I'm not going to act as well as I could do. Killing off Han Solo. What a stupid idea. Most of this is nitpicking by people who probably ain't even true Star Wars fans. In fact, Return of the Jedi offers some of the greatest Star Wars moments ever seen. The build up to Luke jumping off the skiff and grabbing his lightsaber is electric and helped very much by John Williams' amazing score.
Kurs Nummer!
The speeder bike chase is as thrilling as any chase could ever be. The Emperor exudes menace and evil, and is immediately appreciated as an even worse villain than Darth Vader. Now that is impressive, as Darth Vader would say, most impressive. The final space battle over the forest moon of Endor is incredible. After all these years and all the CGI bullshit we've seen in other movies, including the prequels, this has never been surpassed, until maybe the space battle in Rogue One. The final confrontation between Luke, Vader and the Emperor is, well, actually, I'll let it speak for itself. Return of the Jedi created an apparent trend that the third film in any trilogy is going to be shit, to the point that lesser filmmakers have had the audacity to mimic
You are unwise to lower your defenses. Sister. So, you have a twin sister. If you will not turn to the dark side, then perhaps she will.
Return of the Jedi created an apparent trend that the third film in any trilogy is going to be shit, to the point that lesser filmmakers have had the audacity to mimic it in their own third entries into a trilogy which is completely shit. Yes, Bryan Singer, I'm talking to you and your shitty X-Men franchise. You couldn't be bothered to hang around to make the third film because you thought you'd make Superman Returns, which was shit, and you had the audacity to take the piss out of Return of the Jedi in your own third film in another trilogy which was equally shit. You fucking prick. What I am saying is that Return of the Jedi is not a bad film, and it's an excellent conclusion to the original Star Wars trilogy. Talking of conclusions, this is the end of the second part of my Star Wars documentary. Part 3 will include my thoughts on the special editions and the dreaded prequels. If you thought I got angry and there was a lot of bad language in Part 2, then you ain't seen nothing yet. I'll also tell you about my biggest mistake when it comes to Star Wars toys. Thank you for watching. Remember, if you like this video, please leave a thumbs up. If you didn't, I suppose you've got to leave a thumbs down.